Is try number 3. 3 times I've tried to record this video. This one's gonna work. Lucky number 3, I'm telling you, it's my dog's favorite number. It's gonna work this time. Okie dokie, we're gonna talk about the Civil War test you're gonna take for my class. I'm gonna try to do this faster than the other 2, just in case if something else happens, because if it doesn't work this time, I quit. Your test is 30 questions long. It's multiple choice, fill in the blank, true and false, and finally some short answer. I'm about to talk about all of the multiple choice questions right now. So the first 4 questions to the multiple choice section has to do with the last unit's test. It's going to refer to what invention led to more slavery. You better know that's the cotton gin. It's going to talk about the election of 1860. Who was elected to cause the southern states to go bye-bye? That was the election of... Yeah, Abraham Lincoln. You should know that. It's going to talk about the first battle of the Civil War, Fort Sumter. It's going to talk about what act caused Bleeding Kansas. What act was that? Kansas-Nebraska Act. Good. That's old stuff, because we're always going to need that, know that old stuff too. Now I'm going to get into the other multiple choice questions, and these questions I'm going to try to break down into sections, but they won't be in the exact order of the test that you see. So first, let's talk about inventions, innovations, and new discoveries type of stuff. Not necessarily inventions per se, but innovations. So the first thing is we discovered this thing called bromine. Bromine was a drug, a chemical that allowed us to prevent people from dying of infection and disease during the war, because that was the biggest killer. Biggest killer in this war, infection/disease. That's true for pretty much all wars until we get to modern day. So know that. Now, bromine was discovered at the end of the war, unfortunately, and that causes a problem because, we could have saved more than the 600,000 plus lives that died if we could discover this earlier, but it happens. Other innovations and discoveries, the mini ball. The mini ball was this accurate, very aerodynamic way of shooting out of a rifle now. It caused more amputations, more infections. The way it was designed to, it would crush bones and the bones would splinter off, and that would be their own little problems for the body, because now you have all these different shards of bones in your organs and in your muscles. And it also had little grooves on it, and those grooves sometimes could house bacteria, and that was a problem too. So those are some innovations there. Clara Barton founds a new organization, the American Red Cross. This is a big thing, right? Some other new things that took place is you had its first all-black regiment that took place in the Civil War. You had the 54th Massachusetts, the all-black regiment. We talked about all their works in the class, right? They fought many battles. One of the last ones they fought, nobody could take this fort. They didn't take the fort either, and most of them will perish during this fight. We talked about their leader, how Shaw was buried underneath his men in a pit in disgrace by the Southerners, because the Southerners hated the fact that there was a white commander leading an all-black regiment against the South. They thought that was just scandalous. We talked about also with the 54th Massachusetts, the man who earns the Medal of Honor he gets shot multiple times, and he carries their troops' flags all the way back to the station, even though he has these bullets, and that never lets the flag hit. So 54th Massachusetts, big deal. You have, in the fighting of the Civil War, you should understand the logistical advantages, right? Logistics, getting bullets and beans to the front lines. And the North had 3 major ones: railroads, telegraphs, factories. This allows the North to get information, materials, and people to where they need to be to fight, and that gives them a dramatically big advantage to win this war. If you're a betting person, you should put your money on the North, even though we know the outcome, just because of logistical advantages alone. You have Sherman, who does this thing called total war, and that is from Atlanta to Savannah, throughout Georgia. He is burning things down, right? He's taking it to farms. He's looting these farms to a certain degree. He's looting these cities to a certain degree. Plus, you have these people called bummers that are following this giant group of soldiers from the Union who are also going through and taking this stuff. And this is making the people fighting the war realize our homes are in trouble. That's total war. Total war is not just fighting soldiers. It's fighting the broader concept of things. You have, at the end of the war, you have Lee and Grant playing this game of cat and mouse, right? They're Grant's chasing Lee. They fight, then they chase some more, and they fight, and they chase some more. And eventually, Grant gets Lee right next to, or gets him to cornered. They have this little go at Appomattox Courthouse, and Lee surrenders at Appomattox Courthouse. So These are all important things that you need to know for that. But you also need to know about, in this section, this first few questions of multiple choice, it's going to ask you things about different laws, amendments, and proclamations. And there's two that you really need to know. There's the Emancipation Proclamation, and there's the 13th Amendment. Both of them have to do with freeing slaves, but it has to do with where they're freeing slaves. So there's the federal level, which is everywhere in the country, all the free 50, right? And then there's the Confederacy, or just the South. When the Battle of Antietam came, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, and that freed all slaves in the South. But there's a problem. The Emancipation Proclamation freeing all the slaves in the Confederacy or the South, that's only going to last until the war lasts. So after the war is about, or as the war is about to end, Congress and Lincoln realized we need to make sure that these slaves still have rights. And when the Emancipation Proclamation is, what happens to the rights? So they had to make an amendment to the Constitution to make it apply at a federal level that's everywhere, that slaves would be freed everywhere. And that is the 13th Amendment. It freed slaves at a federal level. So that's a whole bunch of stuff I threw at you. Clara Barton, the Red Cross, make sure you know that. He founded that, and it's still around today, blood donations and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the first 15 questions. I didn't answer them or talk about them directly in order, but if you know everything I just said, you're going to be good for the first 15. The true and false section and the fill in the blank section, I'm going to kind of talk at the same time because I'm going to break them up into different categories. So category number 1, just information about this time era you need to know is the 54th Massachusetts. You should know about, were they paid the same? Were they given the same materials or not? Spoiler alert, they weren't. They weren't getting paid the same. They didn't even have shoes for most of the first fighting, right? Election of 1864. Who won the election of 1864? Who won the ballots? Who won the presidency in the election of 1864? You need to know that. Now let's talk about Gettysburg, because there's a lot of things you need to know about Gettysburg. It lasted 3 days. 51,000 people will be casualties. 51,000. 51,112 to be exact. The Union's going to win this battle. No, the defensive line they used was a fishhook on the Union side to protect their flanks. So know all that for Battle of Gettysburg. You should know about the blue and pink piece of paper we looked at, the Confederate Constitution and the Constitution for the United States. The first 10 amendments to the Confederate Constitution protected slavery with 2 of them. They valued slavery so much that their first 2 amendments to their Constitution protect slave trade and protect slave ownership, which, by the way, factors into all those primary sources that we looked at that shows that the Confederacy overwhelmingly supported and wanted to keep slavery as the intention of becoming their own nation. You look at the Declarations of Successions, right? You looked at the constitutions of the Confederacy. You looked at the words of their president, vice president, governors, as well as other politicians and generals and commanders. This is not a big guess. What was the Confederacy trying to do? Protect the institution of slavery. Know that term that refers to getting bullets and beans to the front lines. That I already said it earlier in this video, so hopefully you were paying attention. Know the 3 logistics. Okay, the last part, that's the fill in the blank, questions 16 through 24. The last part of the test, 25 through 30, is short answer. You need to know the 3 advantages that the North had. Okay, trains, not planes. Trains, telegraphs, and factories. You need to know or be able to describe a battle of the Civil War other than Gettysburg in detail, which should be easy because you had a battle project to do that, so that should be easy money. You should be able to tell me the arguments of the lost cause myth. I gave you 4 in class. The lost cause myth was the South's way of trying to look better after the Civil War because they lost, and also because of all their primary sources, they were fighting. Their intentions was to keep slavery. It just was. It's not my opinion. It's their words. And they are trying to make it look better than what it was. And it's still propagated in some places today. Some of these arguments of the lost cause, the slaves had it good in slavery. It was good for them to be slaves. I'm not joking. That's what they argued. And you could see some of those arguments today. Lincoln was a tyrant. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever, considering Lincoln, yes, he suspended habeas corpus. Okay. That's not tyrannical behavior based on who we actually refer to as tyrants. And I gave you examples of tyrants. I talked about Saddam Hussein as a tyrant. I talked about Joseph Stalin as a tyrant. I talked about the leader of Uganda as a tyrant. I talked about the leader of North Korea as a tyrant. I went through a bunch of them. So that second argument, not so much. They also argue that North started it. They were the aggressors. I don't know what to tell you. I don't. That doesn't make any sense. The South shot first at Fort Sumter. They got a bunch of weapons. They took other armories. They were arming themselves to the teeth. They left the Union first before Lincoln was even put into office. So yeah, and there's another argument too that you should know that you need to find out. Who was responsible for Fort Pillow and the first Grand Wizard of KKK? I talked about in class. I'm not going to tell you that answer here. Figure it out on your own. You need to know the difference between General Lee and General Grant, and basically some statistics about them. Who lost more troops? Who had more victories? There are different types of fighting styles, different types of backgrounds. You need to know the difference between Lee and Grant. And finally, you should know what was actually used as the Confederate flag during the war. And hopefully you remember what most people think the Confederate flag was. Yeah, that was never used in the war. Not once. So yeah, know the other ones that were used, and there were 3 of them, so make sure you know all of those. So that is the entire test review in 12-ish minutes, and this is my 3rd try doing it, and I'm not going to ever do it again. So use it, please. I hope you do well, which I think you're going to. Knock this out of the park. Bring home Jerry. Bring home the trophy. I mean, for the class, for all my kiddos that are doing this. Peace out. That's it.